Collaboration event. We have a lot of wonderful speakers today that are going to be sharing some of their experiences in their field of work, as well as some of their background and what led them to or inspired them to do what they're doing today. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to hand over the mic to Ife as he has to share a few words.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So my name is Ife, and for the past week, I've been in charge of a book drive in respect to Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And I just wanted to give a big thank you to Perfect Smile Dental for supporting our latest book drive event. They've helped donate books totaling to almost $1,000 in value, all about Asian culture and heritage, all of which will be going to North Allegheny Intermediate High School. Their kind support promotes Asian culture, Asian history, and Asian contributions. Once again, thank you so much to Perfect Smile Dental for supporting us. All right, back to you, Kevin.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. So in general, this event is going to go through 4 different speakers today in different fields, and we're going to have around 20 minutes of speaking time for each speaker as they go over some of their background in the work, and then we'll have 10 minutes for questions. If you do have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. This meeting will be recorded so you can look at it later. There has been a change. Unfortunately, we had to switch out our third speaker, which was, unfortunately we had to switch out our third speaker, which was a surgeon, and instead we will have a professor speaking instead. So let's go ahead and get started. Chenny, can you introduce our first speaker?
Okay, hey everyone. So our first speaker, his name is Brad, and
hi everyone, this is Brad. Thank you, Chenny, for introducing me. My name is Brad. I'm working in Model Risk Management Group in BNY Mellon, Pittsburgh. Yeah, so I'm going to share my career experience and the knowledge about the career as model risk quant in banks. Okay, so let's start it. Okay, I'm going to introduce myself in the education and past working experience. Then I will, introduce the model risk quant job. What happens in this job. Then next it will be, how to prepare for the quant positions. Okay, so my background. So I got my bachelor, a master, and a PhD in mathematics. I got my bachelor in Lanzhou University, Lanzhou, China. Master degree in mathematics with concentration in partial differential equations in Fudan University. Then I got my PhD in University of Tennessee, Knoxville, with concentration in probability. I think the partial differential equations and probability helped me in my career. So I will introduce later. So my working experience, after my graduation, my first job is working as front office desk strategist in Morgan Stanley. So this is front office role. Basically, we were supporting the traders. So it's I sit in the the trading floor. It's very crowded. So I remember the sales people just sit in front of us. So they are very allowed it. And also so for the front office quant role, it is the result driven oriented. Basically, our manager keep asking us, what's your result, what's your number, so we need to give the answer in very short time and very inaccurate way. Yeah. So then my second job is independent product valuation associate in Nomura. This is the role in finance department. So this role is basically the deadline oriented. So we have to book the numbers and evaluate the traders P&L numbers in accounting book at the end of every month and every quarter. So at the each end of a month is very busy. So basically we need to find the fair value of the products and then compare with traders price and calculate their P&Ls. So after that, I moved to the Pittsburgh in 2012. My role is the model risk quantitative analyst. In the BNY Mellon. So first, let me introduce what's the BNY Mellon. So the BNY Mellon is the largest, the global largest, the custodian bank. Basically, bank holds financial assets for different financial institutes. So the bank keep their assets safe, meaning we can show which assets belongs to which party, right? We show the proof. Second is we help the institute banks to move their financial assets like the stocks, bonds, commodities, around different regions in all over the world. Yeah, so we also help collect the income, etc. So we can collect they need to pay the fee. So you may have question why this institute hold their own assets by themselves, why they give to BNY Mellon. So the reason is that if they hold by themselves, they will have very high cost due to the regulation. But the SEC requires the mutual fund, pension fund, give the they need have very high cost to keep the assets by their own. So they have to give third party to keep their assets. Okay, so basically the BNY Mellon is a bank of banks. So we collect the fees, we receive their deposits. So then BNY Mellon how BNY Mellon make money. So basically these deposits will go to our investment portfolio. We have over 100 trillion. 100 billion. Sorry, 100 billion. The large investment portfolio. Another part is we do the lending, lending service. Yeah. So okay, and then so for our team, model risk management group. So basically, my manager report to CRO, and the CRO report to CEO. So among our group, we have the different areas. I'm managing global pricing validation team for the global pricing, probably in the market trading. Then we also have machine learning and the liquidity team, the market risk, VAR modeling team, credit risk team, etc. Okay, so this is basically my experience. Okay, so next one, what does a model risk quant do? So first, you may have question, what is model risk? Model risk, so first, the model risk is the risk of the loss due to using, inaccurate models in finance. So if you use, wrong models, it could affect the revenue. It will affect, the capital reserve. So, for example, if we have, the CCAR every year, which is, stress test. Every top bank needs pass the, CCAR, pass the stress test. If we failed in the, stress test, the regulator will not allow you to, will not approve your capital plan. For example, you want to, increase your dividends. You want purchase your stock, right? So the regulator will not approve. Okay, so then another question is, what's a model, right? So a model basically refers to, quantitative approach system, which applies, the mathematical, economical, statistical, theory with and the assumptions to generate, quantitative estimation. So you see, the result is the estimation. That means the model will generate, uncertain, the model result could be have the uncertainty. That's why we need have the model risk management. So to prevent loss, the inaccuracy of the model, which cause the loss of the in the bank. Okay, so what does model risk quant do in daily basis? So first, so we know this model risk is a loss, right? So we need to review, all the quantitative models developed by the different modeling team in different business lines. For example, my team is validating, the pricing from the market trading. In the front office, they trade, FX, they trade, the interest rate product. As I mentioned, as a custodian bank, we need help the big banks, big institutes to move their assets globally. Then, we have a huge, FX trading activities. So in our trading portfolio, we have a lot of, FX products. So we need model this. We need to review this model accuracy for these models. Okay, the second is, how do we identify the model risk, right? So we need to perform, varieties of the validation tests to assess the model performance. So let's say if with the forecasting models, right, you can compare with, historical data to make sure to assess their accuracy, right? Then, so as a result, as our, the product of model risk, our product is a validation report. We will list the model weaknesses and the control, with, so for some weaknesses, modeling team need remediate, right, in certain time. for some weaknesses, we need to have some compensatory actions to make sure these weaknesses will not have big impact. Okay, sorry, I think we need to go a little bit fast. Okay, so then we also participate the Federal Reserve Bank's annual stress test. So you may heard about. So then we after we identify the model risk, right? We need to communicate with the modeling team, auditors, and the regulators. Okay, so let's go to the next slides. How to become a quant, right? So I listed some, training skills, knowledges for the quant position. First, education background. So you need to have a master or PhD in quantitative fields, such as mathematical financial engineer, right? So, or sometimes it's also called the computational finance engineer. Yeah, mathematics, statistics, economics, computer science engineer, or in the quantitative fields. Okay, so I also listed some specific skills we need in different fields. Let's say mathematics. Usually we require stochastic calculus, numerical analysis, optimization. So statistics, right? So we need the use regression models to do a lot of casting. Programming, we currently Python is popular. Back to the 10 years ago, C++ is very popular. Also R is the statistic programming. MATLAB, SAS is also for the can deal with large data sets. It's a very powerful statistical tool. Okay, so you also need have basic or immediate level the finance knowledge. So like the some complicated the pricing theory, like the derivative pricing, and for the risk management, you need to have the basic risk management and the modeling skills. Okay, so for this quant position, definitely you need good communication. So as a the model risk quant, we need communicate with modeling team. The regulator, auditor, right? So there are a lot of communications. Every year after the stress test, right? So we need to talk to the Federal Reserve. It's just the Federal Reserve just like check our homework, right? So they will question us. They will if they identify some weaknesses, they will risk to CEO. So it's very serious. Okay, so then our product is the validation report. So definitely we need a good writing skills, and so this work has needed a excuse me. You need to be the multitasker. For the the model risk, this job is project oriented. We need to review model by model. So each model you can consider as a project. So usually we have one people will perform multiple reviews on different models. Especially in my area, we have over 100 pricing models, every year we need to review. So each one has, one or two, over two, over one, two, or over two pricing models need to review, and sometimes we need review multiples in a very short time. Yeah, so you need to be a multitasker and working in a high pressure. Okay, so then you need to prepare for the interviews. I think this is probably for the first job. When you graduate, when you apply for the first job, that is a tough. Really from my experience, the first job is not easy to find and to get it. So. The toughest interview I have is the interview with Morgan Stanley. I had the on-site the super day, we call the super day at the Morgan Stanley. I recall I remember very clearly. The interview is start from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. I was arranged to different conference room, and the interviewer, came one by one, and there's no behavioral questions. It's all the technical questions. They will ask you, mathematical problem, statistical problem. They will, give you a pencil, just to write the codes they want. So, and they also test, brain teasers. So even one lady, just to talk to me, I introduced my PhD dissertation to her, and but later on, he came back. He told me, and she need have second interview with me because she didn't ask me the technical questions, so you can imagine, so you need be very prepared for technical questions. Even when I finish the entire day interview, I arrived to bus station. That my manager called me and asked me, what's your C++ programming skills? Asked me to send him the codes I have wrote. Then I have to work until very late night to prepare my C++ code and send to him. So my point is that you need to be prepared for the tough interviews, especially if you want to go to the top banks like Morgan Stanley, Goldman, JP Morgan, Citi, for the front office role. So for relatively speaking, for the model risk quant, our current interview is pretty simple. So we, especially in this pandemic, we just have a phone interview. So we didn't ask very hard technical questions. So relatively speaking, it's easier to get the model risk quant positions. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, do you have any questions and comments?
Okay, so thank you, Brad, for that. So does anyone have any questions? Someone asked, do you focus more on assessing models or developing them?
As the model risk, our role is to assess the models. So when model developing team develop the model, they need approval from model risk. So they submit their model package, then we will review. And if we think the model is good, then we will give approval so they can implement their model in production.
Are there any other questions? You guys can feel free to either type them in the chat or raise your hand to unmute yourself, but preferably do it in the chat, please. Someone asked, what's the salary range for a quant engineer? Thanks.
I can tell you, the entry level. So for the, the model risk quant, so basically, I think the starting salary is, the 80K or 90K. So in New York could be, the 100K. So, but with, your career development, the salary, it could have, the large range of the salary and the bonus. So this is just for the, model quant. If you in front office, then front office really have, the high salary and with the also, high percentage of bonus. Yeah, if you go to, like, some hedge fund, I think it's you can earn a lot of money.
Okay, the next question is, what is the most challenging task in the job?
Okay, yeah, so as the model risk quant, it is, project oriented, right? So each project had a deadline. It's probably, in the Federal Reserve's CCAR, stress test period, so we have to be a multitasker, and we have to meet the deadlines. Just think about, model risk is the downstream of the model developer. So the model developer develop model, then submit a package to us, then we start to review, right? So basically, we are in the downstream. Our schedule is affected by schedule in the modeling team. And meanwhile, we need to communicate with modeling team, auditor, the regulator. So I think the main challenge is that you need to meet the deadline. You need to work hard, work as a multitasker, and you need to meet the deadline. That means you need to work under high pressure sometimes.
The next question is, how tiring is being a quant engineer?
How to be hard as a financial engineer?
Huh?
Sorry, what's the question again?
The question was, how tiring is being a quant engineer?
You mean the job market, right?
The question didn't specify. Elena, if you want to unmute yourself and ask specifically, you can do that too. She said more like the job.
Okay. Yeah, so financial engineer, could work on, different functions, right? So there are a lot of quant positions. It could be, the front office quants, the mid office quants and the back office quants. You can also work in, the hedge fund. So I think as a first job, so you need to pass, very tough interviews to get, the the good quant positions, like front office quant, or the quant in the hedge funds. So so to do that, I think first, if you graduate from top school, definitely it will be a plus, and you can have the network, right? Through alumni, right? And also you need to have the good good internship, right? It definitely will give you more chance to get the first job, right? Meanwhile, be prepared for your interview.
Okay, thank you so much, Brad. I think that was the last question. We don't have time for any other ones. Now, since it's 2:30, we're gonna go to the next speaker. So thank you so much, Brad. And the next speaker will be introduced by Helen.
Thanks, Mr. Su. Our next guest speaker is Jessica Wang. She is a software engineer and has been working in the financial services industry for the most part of her career. Her education background is computer science and mathematics. She has lived in many different states and worked for many different companies, which she thinks was a fun experience. Let's welcome Jessica Wang.
Hey, Helen, thanks for the introduction, and how's everybody doing? Should I start my video? I'm trying to work out how to use this Zoom thing. Pretty ironic, I'm a programmer, but I'm not good at those things. Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, I assume that's a yes.
Yeah.
Has asked. Okay, start my. All right. Okay. So first of all, I like to thank everybody to sit here listening to the parents talk boring stuff on this fine Saturday. I know when I was a teenager, I wasn't this motivated for sure. So Helen asked me to give a talk here to just share some of my work experience with everybody. I did not make a slide for two reasons. One is I suck at it. Second is I'm just too lazy to do that. So you have to, just listen to me and not seeing any words or anything. I'm a software and programmer by training. My background, as Helen said, is in math and the computer science. Most of my career I spent in banks, investment banks, and recently I got into commercial banking. So what I did pretty much in my whole career was to build banking applications for front office, middle office, and the back office. Now, if some of you have a bank account with PNC, the online banking and mobile banking is our department. We built that. I'm pretty proud of that. So, I mean, work-wise, computer science field has been really hot in recent, 10, 20 years now. It's a great field, especially now because computing is everywhere, is ubiquitous. So if you like to get in this field, I would say it's very helpful and important to have a formal training, to have a high degree if you can. That's going to be a huge plus. If you ask me what helps in your job, it depends on what companies you like to work for and what position you want to go for. If you want to go for a software company, I would say hardcore skills are very important. Programming skills, your mathematical thinking, critical thinking, that stuff is very important. If you work for a big corporation, a bank, or any big company, I would say it's slightly different. Communication becomes probably the most important skill, because increasingly those companies emphasize on soft skills, how you communicate, how you write, how you talk, how you convey your ideas to other people, to your managers, even to the CTOs, to your peer, that kind of thing. So I would encourage everybody, if you have a chance, don't ignore AP English class. If you can cite Shakespeare in meetings, that's a huge plus for people like us. Usually in people's mind, programmers are nerds. You know, we probably don't read Shakespeare all the time. We don't know philosophy, but that's not true. So um, that, throughout my career, that's one thing I learned. So highly depending on the environment, you just have to adapt to learn different skills. But one thing is certain, a higher degree and have a set of hardcore skills would serve you very well. Um, Now, coming to the computer science field, these days, it's really, we like to say things like, okay, do what you like and like what you do. We Chinese parents sometimes, maybe a lot of times, tend to discount that. But I would, beg to differ. If you want to uh, move forward, move up in the field, you can't hate this field. You have to somewhat like it. And sometimes to like something, you have to get into it. So I would encourage everybody not just to stay at the surface, try to go deeper. For example, if you study computer science, you pick a field. These days, cybersecurity is very important. Um, we have to battle the hackers pretty much every second. So what's gonna help you to do that? So if you can take some math classes in number theories, in encryption algorithms, that's gonna be a huge plus. That'll get you to a much higher position. So things like that. And also another hot field is data science. Everybody likes to think, himself or herself is a data scientist. Yeah, what does that even mean, right? So how do you even start that? Well, I would say if you know how to write database queries, that's very good, but that's not data science. Data science, you have to understand probability theory, statistics, all that stuff. So math theories will give us a very solid theoretical background that will enable us to either come up with a better algorithm to combat the hackers or to better do data science stuff, which I don't understand at all better. So if you have the opportunity to study some interdisciplinary classes in high school or in college, I would highly recommend that. So that's about, the jobs. I know a lot of you are high school kids, and when you go to college, probably you want to look for internship or teaching assistant or research assistant. Do that as much as you can to get some real world working experience, mostly on how to communicate with people, with your advisors, with your peer students, to understand, what people are asking. Because when you work on the project in real world, I would say 99% of time, the problem is not well defined if it's not defined at all. So it's up to us to understand the essence of the problem, to formulate the problem, to know how to apply theory on the problem. That's awfully hard to learn, and also it comes with experience. So the early you can get into that part, the better. I'm pretty sure everybody here, since you guys are so motivated on the Saturday to listen to us, are very good students. So, you know, the AP classes in high school, you take them. Don't just take STEM related. Take philosophy, take AP English, take history. It'll help you a lot. And when you go to college, then if you know what you want to get into, then do research in that field. Computer science is a vast field. There's a lot of branches in computer science these days. So say if you I don't think anybody will have trouble getting a job if you go for computer science. It's just, I see somebody ask, what's the salary, entry salary level? If you want to get higher salary, the entry salary, you probably want to study something that's used more, you know, cybersecurity, data science, that kind of things, AI related. So you do some research in those area and take related classes early on. So that's that, you know, I wouldn't say advice, but it's good. It's a good thing to do. Um, so I think Helen also asked me to share my daily life as a programmer. Um, so first of all, I started as a programmer and gradually in this field, if you go with the traditional route, uh, you became a senior programmer, then you became a application architect. So if you are more into architecture role, you're gonna be designing applications. So that requires us to not only know how to code, write good code, also how to put the building blocks together in the way that the application is more robust, um, more plug and play, that kind of features, because things are changing daily these days, especially in financial world. I remember in my younger days, you know, I went to the branch to deposit checks to get cash. These days, we do everything on our phone. So those mobile features, online banking features, also, especially if you look at the payment field, nobody pays cash anymore. Nobody mails a check anymore. It's too slow. It's, you know, too old fashioned. What we do, we swipe our phone or we use PayPal, that kind of thing. So it doesn't matter what you do, what companies you work for, you want to keep up with the technology. It's a lifelong learning. If you say, okay, I mastered Java language, I'm so good at it, I'm all set. That's not true anymore. Even with one language, the versions keep changing, the features, you know, are added pretty much in every new release. So it's not a easy field, but it's very rewarding financially and also job-wise, if you like it. Um, Now, daily life for us mostly is to build applications. A lot of time is spent on communicating with other teams to understand what they want, you know, what features we should put out, that kind of thing. So again, hardcore skills, higher degrees, study, have a solid theoretical foundation that'll help us uh, big time. Also, if you don't want to take the traditional route, this field is very good. Say you can become a open source contributor. You know, you go out to internet, you search anything these days, you can always find something you can use, right? So you can become that. A lot of software that small, medium, big companies use these days are open source software, and they're very good. So if you become that, it's fun, it's challenging, and you get to meet people all over the world. Um, Open source people tend to be very open-minded, also stubborn. So, you know, oftentimes they get together to have a conference. And if you watch those video, like YouTube videos, it's a lot of fun. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And thanks for listening to my rambling. But I think I like to open for QA. I know we Chinese tend to be more reserved. We don't like to talk in public. It's okay if you want to send your questions via chat, but I would encourage everybody to talk. It's not just me answering your questions. We can have a discussion, we can have a disagreement. It's just more fun that way. How's that?
Thank you so much. Does anyone have questions? I have a question. How did you know that this was the right career for you?
Is that Helen? I don't. So I did not know. Honestly, when I was, trying to get into college, trying to decide my major, I was not into computer science at all at my time. I was very into engineering, especially chemical engineering. That was my first choice. My second choice was mechanical engineering because I like to build things using my hands. But my parents said no. And then you guys all know Chinese parents, right? We all have to listen to our moms and dads, and I still listen to my mom. So that was how it was decided. I should go for computer science. And I have to admit, I did not like it initially. I skipped a lot of class in college. I just went to chemistry classes. But gradually, I had to take computer science, I had to graduate. So, I mean, I think 2 years into it, I started seriously study computer science, algorithms, data structure, operating system, that stuff. And it was quite interesting. And then I got, then I was parents, all right? Not all the time. Oh, thanks for saying that. My mom would be very happy. Um, so when I started working, um, you see your apps, the apps you build are used by real world users. That made me very happy. So that actually got me very into computer science programming. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's why I was saying we like to say do what you like and like what you do, but a lot of times we can't afford that. But that doesn't mean you will never like something. Once you put your mind, especially heart, into it, you will like it. Trust me on that one. Peggy said, is there age discrimination? Personally, I did not experience that. Throughout my career, uh, I am always respected by my colleagues. I think this is a mutual thing. If, say, you respect other people, they are going to respect you back. That comes back to my point earlier. So it's a lot. It has a lot to do with how we present ourselves, how we talk, how we behave. So if we behave in the way that people really, say, this guy, he knows what he's doing, she knows what she's talking about, then people are going to respect you regardless of our race, our age. Now, on the flip side, there is a glass ceiling for people like us. It's very hard to break that. Um, you know, I wouldn't say it's because I am a woman or I'm Asian, but I think there is that factor. Just want to be truthful. So my company is trying to break that. They're putting in a lot of effort for that. I think a lot of companies are doing that, but you know, I don't want to paint a very rosy picture for you guys, but there is a glass ceiling. So be prepared for that. And most importantly, learn how to deal with that and learn how to break it. Then, you know, you can really go far. That is a great, oh, thank you, Mimi.
Can I ask a question? Do you have to work after hours? Like
Yes. In before I had my son, I didn't have a life. I always worked. Not complete because my manager forced me or my job was demanding. It was I just liked to do that. If I wasn't working on the job stuff, I was learning on my own. So computer science, right? It's constantly evolving. So if we don't keep up, we lose touch and we become obsolete. So now it depending on what company again you work for. If you work for say Google, Amazon, they drive you crazy. They demand you to work like late nights and the holidays and this and that. For a lot of the majority of banks I work for, they don't encourage that, but it's a good habit to study daily, just to have fun.
thank you.
What is the job stability of a CS in terms of age? I would say if you want to keep doing technical stuff, it's difficult to keep up. It's up to individual. If you really love it, right, you can do it for sure. Now, when we age, our mind slows down. You know, we takes more time to learn new things, and we tend to forget things. And so you want to have domain knowledge. You want to gain the domain knowledge as possible as you can. What I mean by domain knowledge is, say you work in the financial field, you want to understand the financial markets, how, you know, for example, how fund trading works, derivative trading, income trading, fixed income trading, how those things work. For two purposes. One is you will be the expert in both field, in the technical field and in your own domain field. So, and also if you want to pivot to the business field, it's easier for you. People actually value those people. If you don't want to do that, you can go for the management position. If you come from a technical background and you later become a manager in the IT field, that's really valuable. I often complain about IT managers who don't have a clue about IT field, who doesn't understand the landscape of technology. But if you come from that background, you'll be a great manager and will be respected by your people, and you can also contribute hugely to your company's success. Do you think young kids should start learning coding? Well, yes and no. Say, my son was very into coding from early on, so I let him do it, whatever he likes to do. If, say, one day you have a kid, you think, okay, it's important to learn how to write code. I would say no if the kid is not interested. I would rather let the kid play outside, you know. More important thing is the concepts, not the coding mechanics. If you can introduce early on to your kids, I know you guys are probably 17, 16, I'm talking about having kids. The concept of the computing or even the history, the revolution path of computer science. That'll get the interest up in the kids. Coding is very easy to learn. To learn a language is easy, syntax. To understand how a language works and how to use the language effectively, that's the hard thing. That requires us to understand, say, operating system, how to optimize your code, that kind of thing. That's more on the theory side, on the concept side. So in my opinion, coding is good to know in the short term, but if your kids have the interest in this field, talk to them about, computing history, the stories, say von Neumann and or Turing machine, that kind of stuff, and also gradually introduce some computer science concepts. That's more fun and more thought provoking. Okay, next one is from iPhone. What do you think is the glass ceiling? Can you also talk a little bit about the app development process? The glass ceiling, actually, it's everywhere. It's not just in the technology field, right? Glass ceiling means, there is one, but you don't see it, but there is one. Is that what you mean by glass ceiling? Okay, I take that as a yes. So the development process usually goes like this. Again, depending on what companies you work for. Software companies are different. Banks are different. So in the financial world, usually it's the product owners tell us, okay, we saw this new feature for this mobile banking, we want it. Can you code this for us? So we say, okay, what exactly do you want to do? So the first phase is requirements. So we understand requirements from people, and then we try to, put the requirements, break the requirements down to smaller things, items. Then we design the app. By designing, we really have to apply software engineering principles. And then block by block, and then we code these blocks, and then we test, then we release to production. That's when the users will use it. So that's a very high level description of the development process. Is the job competitive? The job is competitive, but the job market is also very good. I went through 2 economical downtime throughout my career. Not even once I was impacted. Granted, you have to keep up the learning. So competitiveness is actually a good thing, in my opinion. It motivates you. It also makes things a whole lot more interesting. Okay. iPhone said I meant soft skills for hard barriers in terms of higher degrees, background requirements. Yes, all that stuff you said, well, higher degrees, background internship, all that will help you to reach a higher level. Soft skills, for sure. I mean, if we want to be honest with ourselves, we tend to be quiet in meetings. We tend to not voice our concerns or our disagreement. When we want to voice our opinion, we sometimes either appear to be very intimidated or like very abrupt. So both are not helping. So in my experience, you want to always communicate to everybody gradually, build up your case. Never be abrupt or timid, because there's no reason for us to be timid. We have probably the highest education among all the, immigrants in this country, and we have probably top-notch skills, right? So, but even with that, the ceiling is still there, just because of the fact we are Asian, and sometimes, in my case, I'm a woman. So it's we're making very good progress, but it'll take time. Do you observe glass ceiling issue is different for first generation versus second generation? The answer is yes, unfortunately. I'm a first generation immigrant. My son is the second. I hope his situation will be better than mine. And I believe it'll be better. But yeah, it's there. Oh, thank you. I think my time is up. Again, thanks for everybody participating in the QA session. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had the same. Thanks for everybody's time. Good luck with the college application, everything, and have a good summer.
Thank you so much for giving your speech. It was really interesting to listen to.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
if anyone else still has questions, is it okay if we ask them to private message you?
Yeah, you can either private message me or you can email me. I think Helen has my email address.
Yeah, okay, I'll put it in the.
Oh, this is Helen, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure, no problem. Anything I can help with, I'm more than happy to do so.
Chenny is gonna introduce our next speaker, and thank you so much, Jessica Wei.
Okay, so our next speaker is a vocal teacher / professional singer. Her name is Lauren Emmerich, and she is actually my vocal teacher. So I've been learning with her for a few months now, and I've learned so much stuff. So I'm so happy that she's going to be here today.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Like Jenny said, my name is Lauren Corcoran Emmerich, and I am a voice teacher and professional singer. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you is a little bit about my background and how I got to where I am right now in life. So I've always loved music. It's always been a part of me. Whenever I was in elementary school, I started playing the cello. And that was kind of my first dive into music. And as I got further in my music career, I started to be involved in singing. So I was singing in choir while I was in middle school. And then when I got to high school, I started to perform more with our choirs as well as musical theater. And while I was in high school, I was able to take the opportunity. We live in a great city, Pittsburgh, for the arts. And I was a part of the Pittsburgh Musical Theater program there, which prepared me with dance and acting and singing. And I took advantage of that and did a couple shows there, as well as sang in their professional productions as a student. So in high school, I was like, I think I'm going to do this. And I thought about going to school for musical theater. But being a musical theater performer is incredibly difficult. I am not a person who wanted to move to New York City and live that life there. You're also unemployed a lot until you get your big break. And so I decided, you know what? I love teaching. And so I want to go into music education. So I decided to get my undergraduate degree in music education, focusing on voice and choral studies from Youngstown State University. And while I was there, I took advantage of all of the performance aspects. So when you go to music school, you can either be a few different majors. One is music education, where you will graduate with your teaching certificate. You're certified to teach kindergarten through 12th grade general music. So you're certified to teach little kids, band, choir, and orchestra. And as well as there's a performance degree. So that's when you go and you focus solely on your main instrument. And we have these other fun degrees too. There's music therapy, which is like a marriage between therapy, psychology, and music, which is a much bigger up and coming industry, as well as music recording, which focuses on more of the technical aspects. But I went for music education. And while I was there, I took advantage of the performance side of things. So I performed in many operas when I was in college. And that's kind of where I got bit with the classical music bug, because I was very into musical theater and pop before that. And Then as I moved through college, I started thinking more seriously about becoming a professional singer. And in the classical music world, that means studying your languages as well as working outside of your university. So I took a summer and I studied in Italy with Oberlin Italy, which was like a concert group that we toured Italy, and we performed for people, as well as we took language classes every day. And then I also spent another summer in Germany studying the German language and culture there, and actually stayed with my mother-in-law who was living over there at the time for that experience. So I originally started in teaching, and I went and I got my student taught, which is an area of education there where you work one-on-one with a teacher in a school. I'm sure many of you may have experience with a student teacher before. So I did that, and then I went on to substitute teach, and I made the decision, I think I'm going to go back to school and focus more on the performance aspect of things. And that's when I decided to go to the University of Akron. Sorry, my dogs are barking. The University of Akron for voice performance. And when you study voice performance, you're studying classical music there. So I performed in their operas, as well as performed in different competitions and things like that. And that's what led me to my current job, which is teaching voice lessons as well as being a professional singer. So as a voice teacher, you are a private business owner. You are absolutely a private business owner, and that's not necessarily one thing that music school prepares you to do. But I have a pretty large studio. I have 40 students, and that is just part of my time. So I also spend time performing. Like I said, I sing with the Mendelssohn Choir of Pittsburgh, which is the choir that sings with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. So I do that. I've also sang with some different choirs in the area. I'm on the roster of Pittsburgh Opera. I've performed in operas in Cleveland and in Youngstown, and I've done some competitions in the regional area. But back to being a small business owner. So I have 40 students, and within that, that means I need to manage everyone's schedule and their scheduling, and what are they singing? Where are they in their process? I have students that are 10 years old, and I have students like Chenny who are in high school. I have students that are adult students, that some that are probably older than your parents. I have some students in their 50s who are working on preparing for professional choir things. I have students that are in their 30s and my age that sing semi-professionally on the side. And so I have to manage their repertoire, decide, and each person, we know we're all individuals. Where are we in our vocal development? Where are we in our musicianship? Especially those of you that have played an instrument, you remember your growth from when you're like, where is C on the piano, to now you can play Rachmaninoff, right? So there's a long bridge there, and you have to be there with your students for your journey. You also have to manage payments. So you have to make sure that you as a professional are charging for your services and your time. And, you spent many years of education getting to that point to now instill it into one another. And you have to sometimes hunt people down for money. And that's not what you're trained to do, but it's part of the process. But one thing that I do love about teaching, and especially teaching private voice lessons, is the interaction that I have with my students. Music is such an intimate and beautiful thing that we create. And especially as a singer, our voice is our instrument. So we can't blame really our instrument for anything. Like if you have a clarinet and your pads are out of adjustment, or your piano is not in tune, or you snap an A string on your violin. Our body's our instrument, and we carry it with us wherever we go. So it's a very personal and intimate instrument. And so it's very, it can be somewhat intimidating to have someone tell you and comment on this thing that is your own. So I develop a special relationship with each of my students to help them feel comfortable and able to grow in their voice. I'm looking at my little notes here. So things that inspired me to do this job is definitely my mentors throughout high school and through my college years. I really enjoyed working with them, and education is definitely part of my passion, which is why I have chosen not to pursue performance so diligently, especially being a singing performer, unlike a professional orchestral musician. If you're a professional orchestral musician, it's very possible that you'll get your chair with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra and you can stay there for many years. Being a singer means that you need to travel, usually travel the United States and travel the world. And that's just not who I am as a person. I have some amazingly talented friends that they thrive on that. But I very much need to have a place to call my own and a space to come back to. And so I find that singing with these major choruses and singing here in Pittsburgh fills my cup, as well as during this quarantine time, my dear friend Brian Sable, who's a pianist, and I have created our own concert society here in Coriopolis. So we're taking the time to develop our program to highlight musicians in Pittsburgh, highlight especially people of color, especially in the LGBTQIA community. That was very important for us to allow classical music, which can sometimes feel a little elitist, to bring that to everyone. So I also run a nonprofit now too, which is that business. And other things that I do that's also related to being a voice teacher is I'm also a vocal director. So I direct the vocal part of musicals. So I work at Moon Area High School, and I also work with We Are the Collective Pittsburgh, directing a musical. So I'm actually right in the middle of a show. We're doing scenes from Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. And I taught all of the music for that show and conducted it for them. So even though my degrees are in music education, teaching, and performance, I do many, many things. I will say that being a private teacher and a professional singer, your schedule is a little backwards. So I have during the day off. So I get up in the morning and hang out with my husband and my dog, and he goes off to work, and I get things done in the house. I practice, I get my administrative work done for my business as a voice teacher. I prepare for the week, and then I teach in the evenings. So I teach from 3 o'clock until 9 o'clock almost every night. And if I have rehearsals, they usually go until about 10, sometimes 11. So it's very much opposite of a 9 to 5. We're kind of the 3 to 10, 3 to midnight if you're performing in a show or something like that. But that's kind of an overview of what I do, and I'm definitely open to taking any questions. Okay. The student is a baritone. Should he find a voice teacher with similar pitch? Oh, that's actually a really, really good question. It's not necessarily that important, but you want to find a voice teacher that works really well with you as a person, as a singer. So I would say as a young student, I would definitely try and go with another male voice because they'll be able to demonstrate things. I have about 5 male students that I work with, and sometimes it's hard for me. I can't sing as low as a bass baritone does, but I have, technique is all very similar when it comes to vocal technique. And so I think it's really up to you and the teacher. That's kind of how it goes, but I would definitely look at some male teachers. Awesome, good question. Have you ever thought to be anything else than what you are right now? Yes, that's actually a really good question. So If I didn't go into music, but I really wanted to, I thought about being an engineer. I really like math and science, and I think I would be really good at that. I also am very good at logistics. I've worked a couple other different jobs. One was managing a business, and I have put on like major events for hundreds of people that involve every aspect of that. So from the moment they buy their ticket to entering the door to leaving, I helped with logistics on that. I've also helped with rental instruments and finding retail things. So yeah, I think I would have been definitely an engineer. I really like that. Hi, I'm Jenny's friend, and she's amazing at singing. Oh, I was wondering if you could sing something for us. Conveniently, I actually have something planned just in case you guys wanted to hear something. So I am going to sing an operatic aria for you. This aria is called Quando me ne vo. It is in Italian, and this is from the opera La Bohème by Puccini. And I just wanted to take a second to read to you the translation and what's going on. So this character, her name is Musetta, and she is coquette and a cafe singer. Though she enters the Café Momus on Christmas Eve with an aging admirer, she bursts into song to force the attention of her old lover, Marcello. So in this scene, Musetta, who had been previously dating Marcello, shows up to the cafe with a new man who happens to be older and happens to be footing the bill for her very impressive lifestyle. So the translation of this piece goes like this. When I go out alone in the street, people stop and stare. They all study me in my beauty from head to foot. And then I savor the subtle longing that comes from their eyes. They know how to appreciate beneath obvious charms all the hidden beauty. Thus, the flow of desire completely surrounds me. It makes me happy. And you who know, who remember, and are melting with passion. So she's talking to Marcello there. You remember. You avoid me so. I know you well, your sufferings. You don't want to tell them. I know you well, but you feel like you're dying. So she's basically saying, you know, you like me. Don't forget that. And yeah, you'll see. So this is Quando me ne vo. This is in Italian. So I'll say this for you. Here. I hope my dog doesn't sing along. So sorry in advance. He likes to sing sometimes. going crazy. It was scratching himself. Oh my gosh. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
I saw that there were a lot of questions about asking Ms. Emmerich for voice lessons. I will link her or Ms. Emmerich, you can type it in the chat too, however you want people to contact you for voice lessons. I didn't really expect that so many people would want this, but if everyone don't ask that in the group chat, please just I don't know.
I'll throw my website in here and you can feel free to contact me if you want to.
Yeah.
How about but I do want to talk a little bit about so Chenny and I have voice lessons, and Chenny and I have met twice now in person. But one thing that the pandemic did, which is really, really cool, is that now I have the opportunity to teach over Zoom and over FaceTime. I have 2 students who were living in Japan, who are currently living in Japan, that I used to have when they lived here in the US. They're a military family. And now I get to work with them through FaceTime. And my voice teacher herself, she was very nervous about the pandemic. And so she has not been teaching in person. I am teaching in person. We follow all the science. I'm very into the science. So I feel so lucky that I can be wherever I want to be, whether I'm in an out of town gig and still have access to my voice teacher, thanks to technology. And that's been really, really great. I just saw another. Am I going crazy? Where's the chat? There's the chat. Cool. Oh, these are really, really great things. Besides voice practice, do you think it's necessary for kids who want to be a singer to take other music such as piano? Yes. Violin, piano at all. Thanks a lot. Yes, I definitely think it's important. That's one thing that I wish I would have done, is taken piano lessons. I'm taking piano lessons now because I accompany my students very oftentimes, and I play okay, but obviously voice is my primary instrument. So I highly suggest, and I wanted to share just a little bit of information with you. I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times how important, music is, but admission, so 70%, admission officers at 70% of the nation's major universities have stated that high school credit and achievement in the arts are significant considerations for admission to their institutions, right? The combined results of 30 studies indicated that music instruction is linked to significantly improved reading skills. There are so many great statistics out there that say that music is important. So even if you decide not to be a singer or a voice teacher or a professional musician, there's still so much that you can do with music. I also find that I don't know if it's just me, but maybe I just attract engineers, but I would say a good handful of the students that I had when I was at the University of Akron as a graduate assistant were engineering majors. They really enjoyed singing, and it brought them such great peace. And it's something that you can always carry with you. And, especially as a singer, that's your instrument. You can go wherever you want to, and it really helps later in your life when you are going to go off to college and become an adult. Joining a choir, and even joining like your church choir or anything like too, is a great opportunity for you to create fulfilling adult friendships, because that's important. And the music community is really, really a tight-knit career. Okay, what opportunity made you switch your career to this path? I think when I was younger, I was not the greatest student when I was in high school. I really struggled. I just didn't know myself as a student. When I got into college, I was like, oh, I understand this. I know how to learn, and graduated, summa, my undergrad, and graduate 4.0, because I figured out my brain. But I really struggled, and music was the only thing that really I was successful at. I also really loved the ability to communicate a story and share this love with everyone. I think that's really important. So even if you decide not to be a professional musician, I definitely highly suggest keeping music a relevant part of your life. I'm sure many of you play instruments or sing. And it's, something you can carry with you forever. It's very, very important. Wonderful. Well, we have about 5 more minutes left. I didn't know if anybody had any other questions. Anything at all?
Ms. Emmerich, could you please send your website into the Zoom chat just so that people could?
Absolutely. Fantastic. I'm doing that now. Just my whole name. Okay, there it is. Can a music major have enough for a living? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It's not the most, I would say, lucrative profession unless you are singing at some of the top houses in the world. I would say many of those that are just professional musicians, including myself, they teach. They teach on the side. They either teach at a college, they might have a large private studio like I do, and things like that. We don't live in $1 million mansion, I can tell you that, but I love what I do, and I think that's really important to me. My husband is also in the music field. He's a piano technician, so he tunes and repairs pianos. He originally went to school for music ed, tuba, and then he didn't really want to teach. That wasn't his thing, and he didn't really want to play either. He's special. But he loves mechanics, and he would have definitely been a mechanical engineer had he not gone into the music side of things. And so his marriage of love of mechanical things and his love of music turned into being a piano technician. And he makes a really, really great living. There are not very many piano technicians. I will tell you, there are very, very many singers, and there are very, very many sopranos that look just like me, So we're constantly trying to make ourselves visible and share our stories of the music with one another to make us stand out. Did you ever have any trouble convincing your family about your career? When I originally said I wanted to go for musical theater, my parents were not particularly happy about that. My mom worked for GlaxoSmithKline. She did product recalls, and my dad worked in computer tech for US Airways. And so they had no concept of what it was like to be a professional musician, but they did know that being in musical theater was going to be a very tough career. And so when I said, I want to go get my music education degree, they really applauded me and pushed me towards doing that. Since at any moment, if I decide that all right, I'm kind of done with this, I can go and I can teach at a school, and that's a very difficult career. How hard your teachers work, but it's also a very stable career. You get up, you might be there from 7, that's the 7 to 3, and I'm the 3 to 7 type, 3 to 9, 10 type person. So yeah, I think that was really important. Oh, I believe your husband's junior grand piano. Great job. Love your singing. Oh, thanks, Jenny. What do you think is the biggest challenge to be a professional singer? Yes. Okay. The biggest challenge to being a professional singer is the mental game. The mental game. This industry can be incredibly brutal. Incredibly brutal. People will talk about your voice. People will talk about your body. People will talk about your personality. And that's incredibly difficult, to be constantly judged. You will not get probably 80% of the auditions, maybe more, probably 90% of the auditions that you take, you will not get. You will fail more times than you will succeed. But those successes will be so great. So I think the biggest challenge is the mental game. How do you continue to keep your head in a place of inner confidence without being cocky. And my teacher and I work on that. I'm always working on my inner confidence. You know, you can't shatter this. Oh, thank you. My daughter's, I'm not worried she won't get roles in musical theater groups. Okay. So I love this question about worried she can't get roles in musical theater groups, not many roles for Asians. Right now, there is a huge push for the Actors Equity Union to really push for a safe space for people of color and of all aspects. And the industry is really pushing towards having everyone visible. And I think that's so important. I hope the industry goes that way. And how much time do I spend on my voice every day? I'll answer that one, I'll let go. I like to practice. I try to practice for at least a half hour a day. Whenever I was in college, I practiced for about 2 hours a day. So I really thank you all so much. I enjoyed our time together. And please let me know if you have any questions. You can visit my website, and my email's on there, my phone number's on there. And I really enjoyed spending this time with you. And I hope that I brought some fun into your day on the Zoom, because I know that can be hard. So
Thank you so much, Ms. Emmerich. That was really amazing. I literally hear you sing every single week, but that was still just as impressive.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Our next speaker is going to be introduced by Iris. So I want to do that.
Okay, so next up we have Jennifer Lin, who works as a full-time hospital pharmacist at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. She went to University of Pittsburgh majoring in biological sciences and minoring in chemistry. And later on, she attended Temple University School of Pharmacy to get a PharmD. Please welcome Jennifer Lin.
All right, thank you, Iris. And if I could share my screen. Let me see. Can I be made a presenter?
It seems you already have co-host permissions, so I think it should be on the bottom toolbar.
All right, got it. All right, I swear I'm not okay. All right, there you go. Sorry about my whiny dog. So again, I'm Jen, and I don't know how I can top Lauren. That was amazing singing. I'm just gonna start with what pharmacy is like today as opposed to pharmacists like hundreds of years ago, which is, I don't know if anyone's been to New Orleans, but there's actually a very cool pharmacy museum in the French Quarters. And they have some of the first apothecary shops there where you can see they make exoskeleton of insects and pills and tinctures out of everything. So the early stages were mostly compounding and manufacturing. And later, there's more focus on dispensing. And nowadays, there are so many roles for pharmacists, not just CVS. I think that's what everyone gets in contact with is their community pharmacy. But I just want everyone to know that there is a lot more to pharmacy than just your regular retail pharmacy. So what is pharmaceutical care? This is what pharmacy is really about nowadays. It's patient-centered practice in which the practitioner assumes responsibility for a patient's drug-related needs and is held accountable for this commitment. So what is this? Do we just count pills? In short, we're the drug police. So when we get a prescription, she's really loud. When we get a prescription from the doctor, we have to see if the drug is appropriate. So say if you have a common cold, then you don't need antibiotics because it's a viral infection. Or if you have a penicillin allergy, then you probably shouldn't get amoxicillin and you should get other classes of antibiotics instead. So we really just look at the drug and we have to review your entire profile to see if this medication is the best for you, not just, punch through the numbers and give you the drug. And we also counsel you on compliance because no drug is going to work if you're not compliant. And there are many areas of pharmacies, as I mentioned. So community pharmacy is like your regular neighborhood CVS, Rite Aid, and some independents nowadays. Hospital pharmacies is where I practice at. So I'm currently at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. I've been there since I graduated back in 2017. And now I also, last year during COVID times, I picked up another job at an adult hospital at Abington. So I kind of got two jobs going on, and also I sometimes work at independent pharmacies to help out. So that's another route you could go. And clinical pharmacy is more with working on the floors with the teams and rounding. So depending on what you want to do, if you want to get super involved with patient care, like you actually want to see the patient and have a lot of interaction, you could go that route, but that would require more residency, and maybe you could specialize in oncology, pediatrics, or any other areas that might interest you. Industrial pharmacies is more like your Merck, GSK, like pharmaceutical companies. I'm sorry about my dog. She is very loud. There's probably someone outside. So it's more if you're more into the research aspect of pharmacy and not so much with patient interaction. So consulting pharmacy is an area that is not often thought of because I guess they're mostly in nursing homes. So when patients go into nursing homes or facilities, they usually carry with them a long list of meds. And for elderly patients, polypharmacy, which means you have many medications, is a huge issue because sometimes people just keep prescribing meds and they never take them off. So the job of a pharmacist, usually contracted with a nursing home, is they go in once a month and they take a look at all the patient profiles and they'll decide, okay, maybe, Mr. Lee, you don't need to take 10 blood pressure medications, or you can start titrating up or down some of the doses to optimize therapy. Regulatory, so it's mostly FDA. I have classmates who went out and just, worked for the government. It's a great job, great gig. Home infusion, there are patients who need long-term IV therapy, either for, say, you're on prolonged antibiotics for an infection that just didn't get better when you're in the hospital and you just don't want to stay in the hospital anymore, or you're dependent on parental nutrition, or you're on chemo. So there are other options for pharmacists in that area. Sorry, let me just go shut the dog real fast. All right, yeah, so there are other areas in pharmacies that are ever emerging, like nuclear pharmacy, or now since COVID, I'm sure a lot of you have seen pharmacy doing immunizations. It used to be just part of community pharmacy, but now they're going out into communities doing outreach to get more of the populations vaccinated. So there's a job in pharmacy for everyone. So if you really like talking to people, you can consider working at community pharmacy where you see customers every day. You get to actually get to know people that you see every day and really build that relationship and be a trustworthy part of their healthcare management. Or if you're like me, you like to work in a healthcare setting, but you really don't want to touch any bodily fluids, then you can work at a hospital and be a hospital pharmacist. So you would think that when you're in the hospital, you're seeing patients every day. That is not at all true. It depends on what you do. If you're a staff pharmacist, we are mostly just in the pharmacy verifying orders through the computer. And we get a report, basically. The Epic system is pretty great. Basically, you can read a report of everything that happens everywhere sitting at the computer. So it's more of a desk job, I would say, if that's what you enjoy. But we also, walk around to check and fill medications, and then we compound IVs, this and that. And of course, most of the part is answering questions for doctors and nurses when they ask. And if you just love reading and doing research and you want your weekends off, this is like a very important aspect, then you can consider a job in industry. Because for what I work right now, I don't know if there is, there are pharmacies that don't open on a weekend, but that's very rare. If you work in a hospital, it's 24/7 most of the time, except for like some small hospitals, they'll like contract it out to another hospital for verification on the weekends, but your hours would basically cover 24/7. So right now my hours are 11 to 9:30. So I work 10-hour shifts 4 days a week, every other weekend at St. Chris. And then at Abington, I work 1 weekend a month, which means I have no weekends. Like this is my only weekend off this month. And then I pick up whatever shift I want. So it really depends on how you like your lifestyle to be. Like I don't really mind weekends right now because weekdays are better shopping days for me. Like today, I didn't even think about going shopping because I just don't want to be with the crowd. So that's something to think about. Education training. So it used to be just a bachelor's degree. Now you have to have a PharmD, which is a doctorate degree. So you have to graduate from an accredited school, and then you take a test based on what state you want to be in. So most places require the NAPLEX. So that's a test that the country, except for California, recognizes. And then you take the local law exam, which is MBJE, for whatever state you're going to be in. And some places have more intern hour restrictions and practice restrictions. So it really depends on where you go. And residency, if you want to go into clinical pharmacy or like some industries, nowadays they have residencies for everything. So it depends on how you want to further your education. So you're still in high school, what you should do right now. So I would say definitely if you know a pharmacist, shadow a pharmacist. Because I got into pharmacy actually really late. I'll talk about that later. But basically the best way to see if you'll like the profession is to see a person do their job like throughout the day and see if you'll like it. Definitely also do some extracurricular activities in high school, volunteer at a hospital and nursing home. Volunteering at a hospital, like, I think that's really beneficial because you get to see many jobs. You don't just see the doctor, you see that there are PAs, there are like pharmacists, nurses. There are many parts of the healthcare team. If you're interested in healthcare, that is, that's not just a physician. And if you already know that you want to be a pharmacist, then you can start looking for a college with 0 to 6 program. So you don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree to be a pharmacist. You can just get through the 6 years and get your PharmD without a bachelor's. And if you still can't decide once you're in college, you can change your major as many times as you want. The best way to see what you might be interested in is join the organizations. There will be many organizations once you get into freshman. There'll be fairs, they'll be everywhere, they'll be knocking on your dorm doors. And basically, if you think you want to do pre-health, you're pretty good for the first year to just take your basic science classes, your biology, your chemistry, your physics. Basically, it's the second year for pharmacy. It's more chemistry oriented. So you gotta take organic chemistry, which are actually very difficult. I did not really enjoy chemistry, but that was the part, that's a heavy part of pharmacy school too, chemistry, because you need to know the structures of drugs to know how they work and different mechanisms. That's a big part. So if you don't like chemistry, maybe you need to reconsider. So my path, I started college with a bio major. I was going for pre-med because I didn't know if there are other options. I started doing pharmacy. Yeah, I started pursuing pharmacy about junior year. That's after basically after I did 2 years of research. I volunteered at a hospital, and then my friend was a pharmacist. My friend was going to apply to pharmacy school. So that's how I learned about pharmacy. And then from my volunteering at the hospital, I got the opportunity to shadow a pharmacist and actually ended up volunteering at Shadyside Pharmacy. So that's how I got into pharmacy. But I had no interaction with anyone in pharmacy before that. So that's why it's great if you have the resources and make connections, talk to other people in other professions to see what your options are. And yada, yada, yada. That's where I am today. And the reason I became a pharmacist is, I want to work in healthcare. There are so many career opportunities, like especially with COVID, when a lot of people lost their jobs. I don't want to say that we got more jobs, but there are a lot more opportunities that open up to pharmacists per se. So I was actually able to verify orders remotely from home. Like I'll come home from work and I'll sit on the couch in my pajamas and just verify orders for a hospital. Or I could go vaccinate some people, but I choose not to do that. So there's a lot of mobility, stability, and it's very flexible depending on how much time you want to commit and what you want to do. So here's some resources, studentdoctor.net. I don't think if anyone knows how to use forums anymore, but back in our days, forums was a thing. And studentdoctor.net, they have a forum and there'll be students and practitioners of similar interests in like pre-med, pre-pharm, dental, whatever health category. And anyone will answer your questions. It's like Reddit, but student doctor. Maybe Reddit's better now. So that's basically it. All right. Any questions? Let's see questions. What is the path to become a pharmacist? Yeah, so you would go onto PharmCast, which is on my last slide, or you could just Google pharmacy school directory. They'll have a list of approved pharmacy schools in terms of salary or kind of gap. And a family doctor, great question. So it depends on what you want to do. Again, I would say if you work at a major chain retail, you probably make a little more than being a hospital pharmacist. But I mean, you know, we make a comfortable like 140-ish. Like it depends, like 100 to like, you know, maybe 150, 160. Anyone else? Yes, after college, maybe I should just show my face. It's kind of weird to just not talk. Oh, okay. So yeah, after college, yes, you go to pharmacy school to become a pharmacist, but you don't have to graduate from college. It's really a personal choice, just because I was in my junior year, so I was basically almost done. And having a bachelor's degree gives you a lot of edge in application. So a lot of my classmates didn't have any degree. Well, they have a high school diploma on their resume until they graduate. So when you're applying to jobs, when you're in pharmacy school, which you need to because you need intern hours, your resume will look a lot better if you have a bachelor's degree. Anyone else? What colleges are pharmacy schools? There are a list of, I mean, there are a list of schools that you can look up on PharmCast. Not every college have a pharmacy school. Obviously, like Pitt has a pharmacy school, Temple has a pharmacy school. Usually I highly recommend selecting a school that comes with a health system, because that is like, that's great in terms of like intern opportunities and any other opportunities. Because if your school doesn't have a health system, then you have to go out of your way to find jobs. Like most of the time, like Pitt has a, you know, there's UPMC. So it's easier if you go to Pitt and then you can move on to UPMC for your internships and your rotations. So you don't have to major in chemistry. You can actually major in anything, but there are prerequisite classes that you have to take. So there are biology, chemistry, physics, and some humanity classes, but a lot of higher level biology classes, like you have to take anatomy. And if you're not in that track, like if you're a music major per se, like something extremely different, then you need to, you know, spend extra time taking the classes, the prereq classes that you need to take. You don't need to major in chemistry. You can be any major. Yeah, so I was a biology major. When you're a biology major at Pitt, it takes very little time to complete a chemistry minor. That's why I just did a bio and chemistry minor. It's not a necessity. And of course, you can just, if you already know that you want to be a pharmacist, which I don't know how most people know what they want to do, you know, once they're like young. I didn't know what I wanted to do until junior year of college. So. So I would say the loan is definitely less. So being a MD, I can tell you, I know, well, I guess the loan is proportion to what you are going to make. And for MDs, your training is longer depending on if you want to specialize or not. Well, it's the same with pharmacy, but you can get away with like the minimum amount of time you need to become a pharmacist is 6 years. You go through 6 years, you're a pharmacist. If you want to go residency, you can do another year or two. So that's 8 years minimum if you want to, be clinical. But you can go through 6 years and work at CVS and make big bucks before your doctor friends. I would say there's always challenges in each profession because you're never seeing the same thing. Each patient is very different. Everything, like one drug doesn't treat all. Even if the drug works for you, it might not work for somebody else. So we're always like monitoring levels. We're always, there's always something new. Like, it's always exciting to be a part of, like I work with peds and it's amazing how kids bounce back. And I really hope this kid pulls through. But recently we had a kid who decided to do like pull-ups on high voltage electrical cords. And now he's 85% burned. But, we just try our best to manage. It's very different. You get different things every day. You don't, do you have to be super good with math? You don't have to be super good, but you can't be bad at math. Like there's a lot of math with, compounding medicine. There are different concentrations of drug. You don't want to be bad with math. CVS, they have how many pharmacists? Depending on how big the store is. I only worked at CVS for a year when I was an intern. That store was a big store, so it had 2 drive-throughs. So typically there are 2 pharmacists. We don't need to be certified toxicologists. Do we need CE? Yes, every year, every cycle of license renewal, we need CEs. So we need to complete those CEs before we renew our license. And if you have like additional like BCPS certificates, BL, like basic life support or ACLS for emergencies, like all those certificates all have to be renewed every 2 years, every year. Total expense, depending on if you're in-state or out-of-state or, you got scholarship. I think, I don't know what the numbers are now, unfortunately, but like back in the days, it was like 20, 30K a year. Yeah, semester. Not a year, a semester. So I guess like 100, some 150, because the final years you have to pay into your internship and rotations. Yes, if you're the only pharmacist, you have to manage the pharmacy. It's yeah, that's the part about being night shift. And actually oftentimes we're short staffed and we're covering lunches. So oftentimes I'm the only pharmacist. So you gotta answer phone calls, you gotta, verify your orders and make sure you keep everything in control. You have technicians to manage. You have to make sure everything flows. So you just clean the queue and make sure everything flows. Anyone else?
Any more questions? Okay, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming to speak.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope everyone learned something. And you guys can email me if you need anything. That's it.
Okay, so I'm gonna pass it over to Kevin now.
All right, next up, we have Scott Mao, who is currently a professor at the University of Pittsburgh in material science. He was formerly a professor at the University of Calgary for 10 years, and he received his postdoctorate at MIT.
Hi, everybody. Let me introduce myself. As Kevin has already give a brief introduction on me, and let me give you my background and where I received my education and which areas I'm working on my education experience and working experience. And so I'm gonna spend 20 minutes talking about myself, and then I'll be answering your question or anything as a question will be welcomed. I'd be glad to share my experience with you in engineering and science areas. First, and I went to college almost more than 40 years ago. College in Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. And then I went to a graduate school, almost 40 years ago, graduate school in Japan and Sendai. I did the education area I received is in engineering. So you're taking physics or mathematics classes, focusing the math and physics. And then I spent 5 years in Japan, 40 years ago, studying materials. Materials, you know, the steels and polymer or ceramics used for building a bridge or the jet engine, gas turbine, this type of materials. So then I went to a school in Boston 35 years ago. Then we did, what I did is I spent a couple of years in Boston, Massachusetts Institute of Technologies, and working in nuclear reactor laboratories. So my task was develop new materials used in the nuclear reactor core, which stand higher neutron and high temperature water. Because the application for this kind of material was to be used in a gas turbine generator in nuclear power plant. You know that we use a nuclear reactor to generate electricity these days, and in Pennsylvania we have 2 nuclear reactors power plant. These kind of things I was working on. And then I almost 30 years ago, I went to Calgary as a professor. So I spent 10 years working in oil gas pipeline safety. In Canada, the professor research, I do teaching in Canadian University, very similar to US university. So we do teaching. So as a professor, you do teaching, teaching and the research. So teaching, you teach in, of course, mechanical design or design bridge, design gas turbine, design airplane. And then you do research and you're supervising graduate students. And then I came to University of Pittsburgh. I spent already 22 years in University of Pittsburgh. So before, during my career, I also went to Harvard University, working in materials. So I was visiting a professor at Harvard University during the 90s. So these days, so the materials I'm working on, I use a microscope to looking at the materials, tiny atoms, using most powerful microscopes we have in the world, and studying the atoms moving. So basically, it's a kind of physics materials. We develop a new kind of materials. Nano is called the nanocrystalline, very strong materials in laboratories. So this kind of experience, I really enjoy teaching and research. So since I'm a professor here at the University of Pittsburgh in engineering school, so my department is now a department of mechanical engineering and material science. So we do both mechanical engineering, which is dealing with design of machines or machine components. Second, material science, we developing new materials used in used as an engineering component. Could be used for bridge, airplane, gas turbine, or even nuclear power plant, gas turbine, fans, anything mechanical components. We do design, and we also evaluate the failures. The airplane, if airplane crashed, we do analysis. What's the problem? Why it's airplane failures? So we do these kind of things. It's really material related. So a lot of activities normally I do, and in material research and teaching. Now, so teaching is kind of fun. I really enjoy to work with the students. You know, the students I work first is undergraduate. So like your high school, I have many students in the past graduated from Pittsburgh areas high school like you. But then they finished undergraduate. Some of them move to a graduate school, and some of them find jobs. Jobs in a variety of industries, like a lot of them, like in the Pittsburgh areas, the people, young people found jobs in like Westinghouse, Betty's, and the glass companies in Pittsburgh area, or steel companies, or design companies, the consulting companies, many, something like that is a mechanical or materials oriented. So if you have an interest in going to industry after you you're thinking about what sort of job you want to find or which direction I could help you. Not hospital like the previous speakers. So more engineering types jobs, professionals we could help you to find. And what is how fun the areas, what's the requirements, how we prepare to be engineer or to go into engineering school during a high school. And the high school is you need two things I would see is mathematics. You have to prepared well, and also physics or chemistry. So you prepared and for going to engineering school in your college, future colleges. So I'll be very glad if you today, to discuss with you about my experience, my career, why I select mine. I was educated in mechanical engineering because I want to design. I'd be able to design an airplane or bridge, as gas pipeline, anything a big component. As a designer, as a mechanical designer, also building you could, the engineering buildings, we could. So ships or submarine or something like that, like power generator. So these kind of things are the areas as a mechanical engineer we be able to build up and design. So I'd be very glad today to getting your questions, curiosities regarding my or regarding the engineering areas. I could maybe could help you to help you find these kind of interesting in the areas. So my the experience I had is different kind of schools I went. See, I went to school in Beijing, China. I went to school in Japan. I went to school in Boston. Also, I went to school in Canada. Of course, this is engineering schools I experienced. And so if you want to have, like to do a study these engineering schools, how to prepare during high school study process, I could let you know, the requirement. These are how we competing with other school students to be successfully getting to the school. Okay, so may I spend more time or receiving your questions? Anything today is open. You could ask. I could help you to give you to meet your curiosities. Okay. So Kevin, could I answer more questions? Stop here.
All right. Do we have any questions in chat or?
Or Japan or Canada or US engineering areas? How we preparing the college?
All right. Well, do you want to put your email in chat, and then if anyone does have any questions, they can email you?
Yes, yes. Anything you have questions, I'll be glad. So you could send me an email, or you could check my name, find my website in school, University of Pittsburgh. And you could check. I'd be able to give you. My email address is sxm2@pitt.edu. So just ask yes. Just ask, send me a email, ask questions. Don't be shy. So I'll be very glad.
All right, we have a question actually. It's for a 10th grader who is interested in mechanical engineering. What books or courses do you recommend to start with?
To study mechanical engineering?
Yeah. For a
Okay.
10th grader.
For 10th grade, okay, yeah. Let me see, for 10th grade, so it's the subject, first of subject, right? The subject I would still encouraging you focusing on the either mathematics or physics, this type of the topic you're focusing. And textbook, variety of textbooks. But as long as if you take an AP class or if you take a mathematics, calculus, mathematics, like integrations, these kind of advanced mathematics is most important. Second, the topic is the next topic would be the physics. Physics is starting from well, is also advanced mechanics. Mechanics would be very important. What's the fundamental of the mechanics is a vector. You start with vectors, right? The topic of vectors, very important, because we focusing on the forces, motion and forces to study the mechanical engineering. So force is a kind of a vectors expression. So everything you do, you have to be very good in the vector analysis.
All right, the next question is for 10th graders who are interested in business, what AP courses would you recommend? I think that maybe out of Professor Mao's expertise, as he is a professor in material science and engineering. The next question is, are there any camps for mechanical or aeronautic engineering that you can suggest?
Oh, aeronautical engineering?
Yeah, any of your summer camps or just camps in general?
Oh, aeronautics engineering. You might be checking the best school in aeronautics is in MIT is the best. You could check their website. If you punch like aeronautics campus, summer camp, then you will coming out. The best school, the ranking #1 in US in aeronautics is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technologies in Boston. This is #1. And the Purdue University Aeronautics is also very good. So I would recommend if you try to find aeronautics summer camp and through the website checking. But the best school would be, I would say, is MIT or Caltech. Caltech is very good. You know, this is aeronautics is a very good area. You know what happened the 2 weeks ago? You know, U.S. sent satellite to Mars. and taking photos, and the design, have a car is running on the Mars, and helicopter running in the Mars. This is the work job by mechanical engineers. And this design team, best team in the aeronautics, is in the Caltech. These days, we want to have exploring the space, the Mars adventure, right? These are the job for mechanical engineer. The best campus is in Caltech. Of course, as a designer, you need a combination of the knowledge in aeronautics or materials, or the design, mechanical design principles, a variety of combinations, electronics. It's kind of combinations for design, anything running vehicles running in Mars, or satellite, or rocket, right? These are the kind of the job as a mechanical engineers we do.
All right, the next question is, how is the job market after graduation from a college with a major in mechanical engineering? Or is it easy? Or is it easy to find a job?
Oh, yes, of course. It's better than civil engineering. It's better than other engineering. Mechanical engineering is very popular for everywhere. The big company can hire you as if you are the mechanical background. You probably can be hired in a materials of steel company, or oil pipeline, energy companies, aerospace companies like Boeing companies. They hire a lot of people. Or the auto companies. Two big industries, the space industry or airplane industry like Boeing, or Pratt & Whitney engine industry, or like GE, Pratt & Whitney in Connecticut, or GE. And then it's other industries, automobiles industries in Detroit. These they hire a lot of people every year. Because the product, every year they have a lot of products, right? Yeah, and energy companies like oil gas company, like in Texas, they hire mechanical engineers.
The next question is, can you please give a big picture of the whole engineering area besides mechanical engineering?
Okay. In addition to mechanical engineering, we could have chemical engineering, we could have civil engineering, we could have manufacturing engineering, we could have bioengineering, these kind of other, or environmental engineerings. So we could have these kind of other areas. The chemical engineering is very popular, in addition to mechanical engineering. Chemical engineering is very similar to mechanical engineering. Chemical engineering and handling are like pharmaceutical industries, and the energy industries, oil, gas industries. They hire a lot of people in the areas. Civil engineering, okay, building, architectures, buildings, right? You design major the big building, design of bridges, these kind of constructions. These are very popular also. Environmental engineering. Environmental engineering is kind of not so popular, but it's getting popular and popular because this is mainly in the design or, it's kind of the environmental analysis, these kind of things, the ocean or climate, this kind of the structures analysis. So we have petrochemicals engineering. Yes, it's belong to the chemical engineering. We have manufacturing. Finally, manufacturing engineering is the mass productions. You have the variety of mainly doing an analysis on the efficiency or how fast the manufacturing variety of products. It's related to mechanical engineering. So these are the kind of engineering or bioengineering. Bioengineering is a handling variety of bioengineering. Can be a bioproduct. Bioproduct could be is a medical device. Developing the bioproduct, manufacturing bio product, biomaterials. These kind of bioengineering and you also can work in the hospitals as a bioengineer. Some people that was major in bioengineering, then after finishing the undergraduate study, then move to medical schools. So these kind of engineerings, in addition to mechanical, so still there, also are popular. Fun job. Normally, engineer background is relatively easy to find job. Also, they give you a good salaries, really decent salaries. Now, electrical engineering is more is a computer or software related. We have in our engineering schools. So the device equipment, electronic equipment, satellite, the power line, power generators, these kind of areas you could find jobs. The many companies in power or energy related the areas.
All right, these next two will probably be the last two questions. The first one is, do you think that the US K-12 education system or kids younger in 1st to 12th grade are as prepared as students in other countries for a STEM career?
Would you say it again? Oh.
All right. Do you think the US K-12 education system prepares students for a STEM career as well as other countries?
Yeah, I would say US provide the best education systems in undergraduate study. And US, you know why? Because the top 100 world top 100 undergraduate schools, almost more than 50% or 60% is in US. And the top 10 world best school is in US.
Wait, sorry to interrupt, but the question was not about undergraduates. It was about like K through 12 education. So kindergarten all the way to 12th grade.
Okay. Yeah, that's we still the education before college, our system here is very diversified, and it's good in US. In US, it's still very competitive in comparison to the world systems. However, I was indicating the school training in high school or in elementary school in math is not good enough to competing with other from the whole world, like India, like China, like Russia, or even European countries. And we have a disadvantage in mathematics training, not strong enough, advanced enough. But our high school or middle school training, the variety of topics, more diversified topics, but in long run, it's good. But only for college purpose, I would say it's not good enough, especially in the math. And the teacher quality in high school and in middle school is not good enough. Still good and not good. I'm not talking about all schools. For some schools are still not good enough, which preventing to generating good students in math and physics for engineering purpose. Okay.
The next question and the final one is computer science is a major which often has high paying jobs. So should kids switch from a major from engineering to computer science?
Yeah. Yes, if your major is computer is engineering, as you are well prepared to go to computer science. Of course, computer science requires more background of physics, something like mathematics and physics. But our engineering students are good in this in comparison to some people background in the chemistry or biology, this kind of. So engineering students are good, are more stronger than other students in biology or chemistry background or sociologists, right? So yes, of course, the computer science now is very most popular areas is dealing with artificial intelligence and anything predictions right now is AI, systems is more Google or your Amazon or the Microsoft. The companies is getting more and more top companies in the world right now. Of course, it's good areas, but our engineering students should be able to move to that easily, that area.
All right, we have time for one more then. How much math in high school do you think will be enough for college studies in engineering? Is AP Calculus enough, or do you think they should take like maybe any higher level courses?
I think AP Calculus, that's good. It's good enough. Also, if the physics, because the physics, 30% or 40% of physics contain the mathematics, like vectors, especially vectors and mechanics. And this, you're not only learning from the AP Calculus, also learning mathematics from physics. Okay.
All right, if that is all the questions, are there any more? All right, I don't think there are any more, so we are going ahead and end this event. Thank you all for attending, And thank you again to all the speakers. I think we definitely learned a lot about various different careers and what really and how to get into them. Just a reminder that we will be having a second career day planned for sometime in June. So keep up on WeChat and anything else to find out the date for that. Thank you all again for attending, and that will be it for this event.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed to answering your question.